1 hen, 1 year, 364 eggs out of 365 days. No hormones, no heated barn, no artificial lighting, no supplements shipped in a bag with a barcode and a corporate logo, just a chicken on open pasture, doing exactly what she was built to do. This bird walks through freezing winters and scorching summers without flinching. She almost never gets sick. She lives up to a decade. And the eggs she lays carry twice the omega-3s and 3 times the vitamin E of anything sitting under fluorescent lights at your grocery store. For one brief window in history, the whole world knew this bird existed. Farmers everywhere were raising her. Families were feeding themselves from her eggs for next to nothing. Then she disappeared. Not because she stopped producing, not because something better came along. She was buried, deliberately, because she worked too well. And that made her a direct threat to a $500 billion industry. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what this breed is, why they pushed her out, and how you can bring her back to your land starting this week. Let's talk about what most backyard chicken keepers are actually dealing with right now. You go to the feed store, you drop $25 on a 50-pound bag of layer pellets. That bag lasts maybe 3 weeks with a small flock. That's over $400 a year. And that's before you buy the oyster shell, the grit, the electrolytes, the dewormer, and whatever else the bag label tells you can't live without. Then there's the birds themselves. Most people start with commercial hybrids from a big box hatchery. Golden comets, ISR browns, production reds. These birds lay hard for 18 months, and then they crash. Egg production drops 40 to 60% after year 1. By year 3, most of them are done. So what do? You buy more chicks, more feed, more supplies. The cycle never ends. And if one of those hybrids gets sick, now you're looking at $50 to $80 vet visits. Antibiotics that cost more than the bird did. Recovery time where she's eating your feed and producing nothing. The average backyard chicken keeper spends $800 to $1,200 a year on their flock. And most of them are getting fewer eggs than their grandmother got from half the birds and $0 in store-bought inputs. That's not a farming model, that's a subscription service. You're paying monthly fees to corporations for the privilege of doing something humans did for free for thousands of years. And the worst part? It was never supposed to be this way. There was a bird built specifically to break this cycle. A bird engineered across generations to feed a family without draining a wallet. You just were never told about her, and that wasn't an accident. To understand why this bird matters, you have to go back to England in the 1880s. A poultry breeder named William Cook crossed Minorcas, Plymouth Rocks, and Langshans on his small farm and produced a bird he called the Black Orpington. Decent eggs, good meat, solid temperament, a respectable dual-purpose bird. But Cook's real legacy wasn't what he built. It was what happened when his birds crossed the ocean. Australian breeders got hold of those Black Orpingtons in the early 1900s, and they had one goal. Not show ribbons, not fancy feathers, not breed standards for a county fair. Eggs. More eggs every single day. They crossed the Orpingtons with white leghorns for laying consistency. Rhode Island red genetics went in to push production higher. Langshan and Minorca blood for size and stamina. And then, and this is the part most breeders never bother with, they kept going. Generation after generation, season after season, selecting only the hens that laid the most while eating the least. This wasn't hobby farming. This was deliberate, obsessive, generational breeding with one purpose: build a chicken that could feed a family from nothing but open ground. By 1902, the Hawkesbury Agricultural College in New South Wales held one of the first official egg-laying contests in history. 41 pens, different breeds, identical conditions, same feed, same water, same shelter. The early Australorps took 7 of the top 13 spots. But those breeders weren't satisfied. They kept pushing, and what happened next changed poultry history. Before I tell you what that record was and why it terrified an entire industry, let me say something. If you're watching this right now thinking, why has nobody ever told me this? That's exactly why this channel exists. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because what's coming next is the part they really don't want you to know. In 1922, at a major laying contest in Geelong, Victoria, A pen of just 6 Australorp hens laid 1,157 eggs in 365 consecutive days. That's 309 eggs per hen per year. No artificial lighting, no climate-controlled barn, no hormones, no supplements, no pharmaceutical assistance of any kind. The poultry world went silent. Nobody had ever seen numbers like that from any breed under any conditions. But it didn't stop there. At the next contest, a single hen laid 347 eggs in 12 months. Then another bird pushed that to 354. And then, one hen, 1 year, almost nobody talks about this, laid 364 eggs in 365 days. 1 egg every single day for an entire calendar year, -1. No lab, no special feed program, just an Australian hen on open pasture with sunlight, bugs from the grass, and kitchen scraps. 5 main bloodlines built this bird to that level: Graham, Burns, Christie, Burlesmer, and Woodcock. Different breeders, different methods, but every single one shared the same obsession. A hen that pays for herself from day one and never stops. And for a brief window, the entire world took notice. That attention brought the wrong kind of eyes. The global poultry industry today is worth over $320 billion. The feed industry alone generates another $200 billion on top of that. $500 billion, built on one assumption that you need to buy everything to raise anything. Now ask yourself a simple question. What happens to that $200 billion feed business when a heritage hen walks onto open pasture and feeds herself? What happens to the veterinary pharmaceutical industry when a naturally hardy breed almost never gets sick? What happens to the genetics companies selling patented hybrid chickens when an open source heritage bird outperforms every one of their products on real ground? They lose billions. And industries facing that kind of loss don't sit quietly. Here's the thing about the Australorp. You cannot patent her. She belongs to no corporation. You cannot patent the pasture she forages on. The grass, the bugs, the sunlight, none of it is intellectual property. You cannot patent the knowledge your grandparents carried about raising chickens without buying a single thing. What cannot be patented cannot be controlled. What cannot be controlled cannot generate recurring revenue. And what cannot generate recurring revenue gets replaced. So that's exactly what happened. They replaced the Australorp with the Cornish cross, a bird so genetically extreme it hits slaughter weight in 6 weeks, cannot reproduce naturally, and dies of organ failure if you let it live past 10 weeks. They replaced open pasture with climate-controlled factory barns, where chickens never see sunlight or touch real soil in their entire lives. They replaced kitchen scraps and foraged insects with 50-pound bags of soy corn mix sold at a premium every single week. They replaced your grandmother's knowledge with a system that requires you to buy everything from everyone forever. And it worked. Within 2 generations, most families had never even heard the name Australorp. The breed dropped off hatchery catalogs. Feed stores stopped mentioning her. Extension programs pushed hybrids instead. The knowledge didn't just fade, it was actively pushed out of the conversation. The bird that could have kept millions of families food independent was quietly shelved in favor of a system designed to keep you dependent. But here's what they didn't count on. She survived anyway. The Australorp didn't vanish completely. She survived in backyard flocks that never followed the commercial playbook. She survived in small heritage breeders who kept selecting for the old traits: production, hardiness, foraging ability, self-sufficiency. She survived in homesteaders who never stopped asking the question the industry hoped you'd forget. Why am I paying for something my great-grandparents got for free? Today, the Livestock Conservancy lists heritage Australorps as a breed worth preserving. Small breeders across the country are actively rebuilding the original production lines, and the results are proving what those Australian farmers proved 100 years ago. This bird still performs. She still lays 250 to 300 eggs per year on good pasture with minimal inputs. She still handles heat and cold without supplemental heating. She still raises her own chicks without an incubator. The genetics never failed. The information was just buried. And now it's coming back, because people like you are digging it up. Let's talk about how to actually do this yourself. Step 1. Find a real heritage Australorp. This is where most people go wrong before they even start. Do not order from a big commercial hatchery. Most large hatcheries breed for appearance, not production. Their Australorps look the part, but they've been crossed and diluted so many times that the laying genetics are a shadow of what they used to be. What you want is a breeder who's actively selecting for production, foraging instinct, and hardiness. Someone who tracks their numbers. Someone who can tell you what their hens actually lay per year, not what the breed standard says they should. The Livestock Conservancy maintains breeder directories that are genuinely useful. Local poultry groups and heritage breed forums are a goldmine. Ask questions. Look for breeders who talk about performance, not plumage. A good heritage Australorp from a production-focused breeder costs more upfront, but that bird will outproduce any hatchery hybrid across a full lifetime by a wide margin. Step 2. Give her ground. This is not a barn bird. This is a forager. The Australorp was built to work open ground. Even a small backyard works if she has access to grass, soil, and insects in real sunlight. A quarter acre of decent pasture can support 8 to 12 hens with rotational grazing. Even a 500 square foot run with deep mulch and regular kitchen scrap composting gives her enough to cut your feed bill by 30 to 50%. The key is real ground contact, bare soil for dust bathing, grass and weeds for grazing, decomposing organic matter that attracts insects. This is her grocery store. Let her shop. If you're keeping chickens on bare dirt in a static run with no vegetation, you're funding 100% of her nutrition out of your own pocket. Give her ground. And she starts paying for herself. Step 3. Keep the feed simple. Here's a starting mix that works and costs next to nothing if you're growing even a small garden. 60% cracked corn or wheat for energy, 20% protein from black soldier larvae, sunflower seeds, or dried mealworms, 10% fresh greens, kitchen scraps, garden surplus, foraged dandelion and clover, 10% calcium from crushed oyster shell or dried, ground egg shell. That's your entire feed program. No branded bags, no proprietary blend, no subscription to someone else's supply chain. And I'll be straight with you. The first time you crack open an egg from a pasture-raised Australorp eating this way, you will not believe what you're looking at. Deep orange yolk, almost red. That color isn't cosmetic. That's nutrition you can see with your bare eyes. Let me tell you how I actually learned all of this because it wasn't from a book. A few years back I was running a small mixed flock, golden comets, a couple of Isa Browns, some Easter eggers I picked up because I liked the colored shells. I was spending close to $90 a month on feed, buying oyster shells separately, grits separately, electrolytes in summer, vitamins in winter, and every few months, something went wrong. Bumblefoot, a hen sitting in the nesting box for weeks, 2 birds lost in one winter to a respiratory issue I still can't explain. I was frustrated. I was spending more on keeping chickens then. I would have spent just buying eggs at the store. Then an old-timer at a local swap meet handed me a pair of black Australorps, heritage stock, production line breeder, nobody I'd ever heard of. He didn't say much, just give them ground. Stop buying so much. Watch what happens. I was skeptical. They looked plain, jet black, no blue eggs, no feathered feet, just 2 quiet, solid hens. Within 6 weeks, those 2 birds were outproducing my entire flock of 8. They foraged harder than anything I'd ever kept. They ate half the feed. They never got sick, not that winter, not the next summer, not across 3 full years. By the end of that first year, my feed bill was down more than 60%. My egg count was up. My vet costs had dropped to 0. Those 2 plain black hens became the foundation of everything I raised today. That old-timer didn't give me chickens. He gave me a way out of a system I didn't even realize I was trapped in. Let me save you from the mistakes that trip up almost everyone who tries this. Mistake 1, buying from the wrong source. You order Australorps from a commercial hatchery. You get a bird that looks like an Australorp but lays like a mediocre hybrid. You'll be disappointed. And you'll blame the breed instead of the source. Find a heritage breeder who tracks laying numbers. That one decision changes everything. Mistake 2, keeping them locked in a small static run. The Australorp was engineered to forage. Lock her in a 488 coop with no ground access and you're paying for 100% of her feed while getting maybe 60% of her potential. She needs soil. She needs bugs. She needs real sunlight and room to work. You don't need acreage, you need intention. Mistake 3, overcomplicating the feed. Stop buying 5 different supplements. Stop adding apple cider vinegar to everything. Stop treating a simple, hardy bird like she's fragile. She's not. She was built to thrive on what the land provides. Trust the genetics and get out of her way. Mistake 4. Giving up after one generation. Your first Australorps might lay 250 eggs a year. That's excellent, but the real power is in selective breeding. Keep your best layers, hatch from your strongest hens. Within 3 to 4 generations, you're pushing 280, 290, 300 eggs from birds you raised yourself, for free. The old Australian breeders didn't build a record-breaking bird in one season. They built her across decades. Play the long game. Zoom out for a second and picture what this looks like 3 to 5 years from now. You have a self-sustaining flock of heritage Australorps on your land. They forage most of their own food. Your feed bill is a fraction of what it used to be. You're collecting 250 to 300 eggs per hen per year from birds that almost never get sick. You're not buying chicks anymore. Your hens raise their own. You're not replacing burned-out hybrids every 18 months. You're not standing in the feed store aisle wondering which $30 bag of supplements you need this time. Your eggs are deep orange, nutrient-dense, and better than anything money can buy at any store in your county. Your neighbors notice. Your family notices. Anyone you share them with never goes back to store-bought. You didn't just build a flock. You built a food system, one that feeds your family without asking permission from a supply chain, a corporation, or a feed company. That's not a hobby. That's independence. Real, tangible, eggs in your hand every morning independence. And it all started with one breed that somebody hoped you'd never find out about. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment right now. Are you already raising Australorps? What's your experience been? If you're not yet, what's held you back? I read every single comment. I want to hear your story. If this video opened your eyes to something the industry doesn't want you thinking about, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. We put out content like this every week. Heritage breeds, forgotten methods, real numbers, no fluff, no corporate sponsors telling us what to say. And the next video goes even deeper. I'm going to show you the exact free feed system that can eliminate your feed bill almost entirely. Using plants you can grow in any climate, any backyard, any time of year. You don't want to miss that one. This knowledge was never lost. It was just waiting for someone to go looking for it. Now you have it. What you do with it from here, that's up to you.